Ooh, you didn't tell me you were a brainiac.
Welcome into Leather Brains, your host here, Slapdawg, and we have a lot to cover today. CeeDee Lamb has gotten paid, so congratulations to him. We're going to be talking about that. Some Chargers players got stuck in an elevator, been there, done that, not that great. We are rolling out a game for this season, so I'm very interested to share with all the Brainiacs this new game that we're going to be playing and the implications for the person that loses this game, and so much more. We also have an interview today, which I'm very, very excited about. We did interview Dave Heilman over on Twitter. I really think you guys are going to love this interview. We are breaking down some interesting fantasy football takes regarding an issue that Scotty was having with his redraft league. We're going to be talking about Caleb Williams, Javontae Williams, Malik Nabers. There's a lot of things we covered there with Dave. Very excited for you guys to hear that. Now, I do also want to point out this interview was done last week, a little bit later last week. So some of the information, such as when we talked about CeeDee Lamb, that information was not out yet because it didn't happen yet.
See.
So I do just...
We'll see. Was there anything juicy said? Was there anything juicy? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, there might have been some juicy stuff said about Trey Lance.
There might have been some, yeah. We'll get
How many Kyle Pitts questions did you ask him? Over, under 7?
Just one.
Yeah, okay. I would say under. Scotty, I was actually very impressed.
Just one.
Wow, restraint.
Before we get into any of that, though, we have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Erica's Healthy Pet. Guys, they have a bunch of different treats over there. They got turkey jerky, chicken jerky. They have some cheddar bites. They have beef hearts, which admittedly smell terrible, but my dogs love them. They have herbal itch relief shampoo. They've got so many different things. Go check out Erica's Healthy Pet for both cat and dog treats, as well as skincare solutions for your pet. And use code LB20 for 20% off. ericashealthypet.com. Go check it out. If you really want to help support the show, this is a great way to do so, and it's good for your pet, and they will enjoy the things you buy for them. So go check it out, ericashealthypet.com. Use code LB20, 20% off. Gentlemen, let's talk about this competition. I'm a competitive guy. I know you guys are both competitive guys, and so we thought, what way could we be entertaining and competitive with each other so that way the Brainiacs could enjoy listening and also partaking in part of this. And so this competition is we're going to bet against the spread in 4 games every single week. And we're going to release this ahead of time, or while we're talking about the episode. We're going to release a graphic with this. This is going to be an ongoing thing, and we're going to be keeping score of each other's how we're doing throughout the season, right?
The spread's going to get interesting. I think this is obviously gambling. That's going to be fun for us because I think we can pick the winner. This is going to get into the details. Now we're really going to sweat this one out every Sunday. I'm pretty excited to get this rolling.
No chance.
Yeah, I am as well. So we're going to kind of base these games on what some of the most fun matchups are. So if it's the Panthers playing the Bucks, probably aren't going to cover that. But what we're going to do is try and cover some big headline games. And maybe that is the game that we pick that week. Who knows? But there's going to be 4 games that we're going to single out amongst ourselves to choose. And then we're going to decide one way or the other which team's going to win that game. We're going to be keeping score. And the kicker here, the thing that I really do like is the loser of whoever has the worst season-long record has to sing the national anthem live. So I'm very excited for that. Between the 3 of us, none of us can sing. To my knowledge, I don't know if you gentlemen can, but I certainly
think
cannot.
We're all pretty good. We're all pretty good. I think we're going to surprise some people.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well,
Whoever
Alan
sings
is.
it, I'm not going to sing it.
I'm definitely.
There's no way. I would say the only other thing to note here is that it's winning percentage. I know some of us are on and off, depending. And then any of the other folks that jump in, maybe if they get enough games under their belt, they can do it too. But this should be fun. One of us is going to look really stupid, and I'm just wondering who is going to look super stupid.
I think we're just going to play nose goes. Like, I can't do this. Yeah, excited for that. So, and then also, if you want to compete with us and other Brainiacs that are also a part of this, we have put out a tweet repeatedly over on Sleeper. We have a Pick'ems League. It's free to join. And we want you guys to come over there, play with us over there. And then whoever has one of the best winning percentages in that league, We'll have you here on the show if you're interested. And if you
Mm-hmm.
verbally don't want to be on the show, we'll still talk about it. We'll still pull up your stats. We want to showcase you guys, and we will also be doing some giveaways over there too. So come join us over there. It's absolutely 100% free to enter, and would love to have all of the Brainiacs join us over there to partake in this competition. Okay, gentlemen, let's get to football talk. CeeDee Lamb finally happened. We've been talking about it all offseason. Between him and Brandon Ayuk, it seems like it's been the 49ers Cowboys podcast. Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb finally has gotten paid. He got a 4-year, $136 million extension with $100 million in guarantees. Looks like the old skin bag did something right, boys. Jerry Jones finally paid CeeDee Lamb, which now begs the question, and one that we have constantly had on the show. Is it Dak or is it Micah as the odd man out here?
Do you?
Go
ahead. No. You go.
Listen, as the one who is not going to have to sing the national anthem, I'm going to give you the grace that you need. You go ahead.
All right. Should I sing? Should I sing my
Just
banter
sing
right
now.
now? I'll sing now. I think. I guess the point / question I had back to you all is: do you think Dak is now playing for that contract? Like, if he, depending on how he does this year, do you think he's playing his way in or out of an extension? Yes or no?
I think it's got to be yes. I think it has
Yeah,
to
I
be
think so
yes.
too.
It has to.
Like,
he has to.
I mean, if he comes out and he shits the bed, that's a pretty clear indication that he's going to be the odd man out. But and we're going to get to this in just a moment because we're going to talk about Trey Lance. But like we had kind of had some preliminary discussions of, are they trying to see if Trey Lance is somebody or not? And regardless, I think we'll get there in just a second. But all's to say, this is Dak's time. Like if Dak really wants to continue playing for the Cowboys, he needs to show it. And I also look at it and I'm like, there's other teams that need a quarterback. So regardless, he still can have a starting job elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be fine for his career. It's just whether or not it's with the Cowboys. But I am interested in what the standard that he has to reach actually is, because as much shit as we talk about Dak Prescott, he's a pretty damn good quarterback. He's a great regular season quarterback, and this offense was one of the best in the league last year. So what does he have to do to keep his job? Does he have to get a playoff win? Does he just have to have a successful season where the offense looks really good? Because they did that last year. So what is the actual standard? That I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where Jerry Jones's head is at.
That's what I was just going to say. You have to climb into Jerry Jones's mind to figure out the answer of what he's thinking. If I'm a betting man, which we are now betting, I think that Jerry is going to be all about the optics. It's going to be, how is it looking? Are people making fun of us on ESPN? Does it look like he's a pile of shit? Because
people have been doing that all off season, though. I do just want to say, like, everybody's been, the all-in jokes have not stopped flying.
We say many times, I know it's said on the Twitterverse too, is that winning is not a quarterback stat, but this might be the year for Dak where winning actually might be a quarterback stat for him. Like he has to win. Winning not even the division, because I think that's going to be tough, but I think he has to be right there at the end, and then he has to win a playoff game. And I think it's winning that's going to ultimately seal the deal. Like they are going to go as he goes. So if they're winning, his stats are probably going to be just fine. So I don't think it's going to be an all out statistical thing, but even if his stats are there, but he's throwing late game interceptions and they lose the game because of his boneheaded mistakes, I think that's going to play his way right out of Dallas. I think Jerry is going to be have his fingers on the pulse of what the hell everybody's saying about his team and what they think, because he is all about the optics. And I think it needs to look good and they need to win. So I think this is going to be one of the few times for Dak that winning is going to be a quarterback stat, unfortunately.
Gun to your head. You're looking into the crystal ball. Who is it? Gun to
Who's
your
holding
head
the
right
gun? Now. Is it Jerry?
It's Jerry. So it's shaking, but he's holding it.
He can't hit me.
Okay, sorry, I was more concerned about who's holding my crystal ball.
Who's going to stay? Who's going to stay with the Packers? Who's going to stay with the Cowboys?
I think it's going to be Dak.
I think it's going to be both of them for at least I think Dak's going to get an extension. I think they're going to tag. I don't know. Are they still? I think they're still able to tag Micah Parsons. Yeah. So I think, especially if we see a regular season like we did last year, I think we're going to see both those guys re-signed because they're so close and they don't want to go through a rebuild right after signing a star wide receiver for a long-term deal. So I think it's in all likelihood it's going to be both of them, and this is all just going to be stupid off-season fodder that doesn't turn into anything, and we're still going to see the same three guys on the Cowboys.
What do you mean by close? They're close. You said they're close.
They're close. They're a great regular season team. Like it would only be surprising if they made it to a Super Bowl because of their playoff record. But in terms of the skill that they have on the field, they've been close. They've been right there with some of the best teams in the league. They can't do it in the postseason, and that's their only problem. So they've been close. I mean, there's reason enough there to have faith that they're capable of doing it. Besides the postseason stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just the one thing they're going to have to get is the taste out of their mouth for what the Packers did to them in the playoffs. Like that still has to just absolutely sting. They got to get rid of that. They got to get rid of that right away, because I could see the Packers beating them many times, because just not literally, but because of what they did to them at their own house and how just over it was by halftime. Like nobody cared anymore. We're just like, sweet. Like this game is so done. They got to they got to mentally get through that. And if they can get through that, I agree. But I don't think they're close. I think the roster's nice, but I still think they have a lot of holes in this, namely like number 2 option on who you're throwing it to. There's just so many things that, like, sure, at the 1A positions, they look good, but I think there's just a lot of holes once you get behind some of the starters.
We're talking about people that are close, or this team that is close. Let's talk about somebody who was not close to throwing touchdowns this weekend. It's Trey Lance. He threw 5 picks this last weekend. So you're going to hear us talk with Dave about potential Vikings moves and how Trey didn't look bad. Do not put that on Dave. This happened before this last game, and Trey Lance did not look good.
Well, hold on. He threw for over 300 yards. I mean, there were some picks.
He
but
threw
he was
5 interceptions. In fact, he's the first quarterback since at least 2015 to throw 5+ interceptions in a preseason game.
Okay, but listen.
They're still completions.
It was a bad look for sure. However, we have to remember that Trey Lance in 2024 preseason had the most passing yards of any quarterback and the most rushing yards of any quarterback. There's a lot of good things about the stuff that he did. It just sucks that he happened to throw 5 interceptions against a third-team defense. That's
the problem. And so here's the situation that we run into. This is Lance's 4th year in the NFL, and he's a backup that is struggling in a preseason game. There's a lot of people that really want Trey Lance to be something in the NFL. They're like, okay, he's never had a shot. He's never been able to stay healthy. He's never had like stability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you see stuff like this, and it really makes it very hard for me to argue that he will ever be a quarterback 1 in the NFL ever again. Like he'll never be a starter. And you see something like this, and to what you just said, Scotty, he was playing against backups, and to throw 5 picks. Yeah, the stat line, admittedly, 33 for 49 for 323 and 1 touchdown. That's not a bad stat line when you hide the 5 interceptions that follow. So,
which we will do starting now.
We're going to hide those interceptions. I'm rooting for Trey. We have been Trey Lance stands since day one. I want him to succeed, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So, pretty tough. And it also kind of makes things a little bit more unique from the perspective of, well, maybe they move on from Dak, because I think this is a pretty clear indication that they can't move on from Dak because they can't play that.
This has got to be one of the quickest exits for a first-round quarterback that didn't really play.
Yeah.
Like, at least the other first-rounders, you're like, this is not great. We didn't
Zach
really
Wilson?
even...
We know
we
what
didn't
he is.
really get to see him play. Like, we didn't get like a ton of meaningful snaps of him in the regular season, which is why Dallas is overworking him in the preseason. And so I get it. And it's just might be the weirder first round picks, because he just never actually got to prove it on the field or disprove it. It was just kind of like, he just ended up in situations where there was quarterbacks that were clearly better than him, and he was just never going to see the field.
Yeah. And I think that's why
you guys, sorry, do you remember how many interceptions CJ Stroud threw all of last year?
I don't.
12?
I really don't.
I'm going to guess 12.
I don't think it was that many.
Why don't you check that, Scotty?
5 interceptions. So Trey Lance had as many interceptions in this preseason game as CJ Stroud did the entirety of last season.
Yeah, that's bad.
CJ Stroud is just scared. CJ Stroud is scared to gunsling it, and Trey just has that dog in him. He's just going to fire away. I appreciate that.
That's true. CJ Stroud is
that is a true supporter of Trey right there. To your point, Alan, though, I think that's why people are like holding out a glimpse of hope, is because we haven't got to see it. But it's like,
we don't know.
I think if we haven't seen it by this point, it's pretty telling that that's, it's written in the sand for teams. So all is to say, let's go over to the Dave Heilman interview. Go follow him at Dynasty Dorks over on Twitter. Great content he's creating over there. He'll tell you more about it. Let's get over to that interview now. And now, introducing our reoccurring guest, Dave Heilman, which I did pronounce correctly. Dave, it's great to have you back here on Leather Brains. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Just getting ready for some fantasy football. You wait for it, and then all of a sudden it's just like everything. You get 3 or 4 drafts this weekend. It's on. And
then they always sneak up on you too, where some guys like, hey, you want to get in on this last minute one? We need one more player, and then all of a sudden you're like in 9 leagues. It happens every day. Every day, it's like struggle is real. Yeah. So, Dave, you have been on the show before, but for those who are not familiar, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody where they can find you and what you got going on?
Yeah, appreciate that. Dave Heilman. You can find me at Dynasty Dorks on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I do social media for Dynasty Trade Calculator, DTC, and I work for SGPN, Sports Gambling Podcast. Got a new show, 5-Minute Fantasy Football, just a couple days a week. Give you quick little episodes, and it's the first year we're doing it. It's going pretty well.
Good, glad to hear it. We as Leather Brains have tuned into some of those shows, so we're happy to see those come out, and they're good stuff, man. So excited to have you here today. We're going to talk a little bit about fantasy football, but primarily I want to pick your brain on a couple different topics in the NFL space and what's going on with a couple different teams and a couple different players. So I want to start with Malik Nabers and kind of Daniel Jones by extension here. So in one of your 5-minute fantasy, in the most recent one, you had kind of discussed the New York Giants. And so let's talk about them. Let's discuss them. Malik Nabers is obviously top 10 wide receiver, drafted in the top 10 draft pick this year as wide receiver to try and come in and help Daniel Jones and the Giants. Is Daniel Jones' beard going to bring him back to success, or is Malik Nabers going to be a pitfall because Daniel Jones is not good?
Well, let me preface this by saying that I'm a Daniel Jones truther. He gets so much hate, and he's never had any weapons. He's never had an offensive line, and everyone thinks he sucks, and he might suck, but we don't know yet is the point. And so I think as they add a little bit of pieces, and people are talking about Malik Nabers, you're the fantasy expert. People are talking about Malik Nabers being a good fantasy asset because he's like the only one there that can catch the ball. So I don't know if Daniel Jones sucks. Is Malik Nabers still going to be useful for fantasy? Or maybe are you going to feed me a little bit of juice and tell me that this offense is going to be better than people think?
Yeah, and I'm a Giants fan, but I'm going to be honest here. Daniel Jones, like, don't let the beard be a catfish situation. You know, you see the beard, you're like, man, he looks like
it's a nice looking beard,
looking handsome like Hunter. And no, Daniel Jones is not someone you should be targeting in fantasy football. But at the end of the day, volume is king, and if you're in a PPR league, Malik Nabers is going to be a good draft pick. The Giants and the stink around the offense is at least baked into the cost. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is literally a borderline first-round pick in redraft right now. You're getting him at the beginning of the second. Malik Nabers is 5th round, 4th round in one quarterback leagues. I'm okay with that. You know, like, yes, I would love like the Jamar Chase can't catch a ball without stripes discount and get him in the 7th, 8th round. 4th round is tough because you're not going to get probably not a lot of touchdowns unless he goes and breaks a 70-yarder. But a whole lot of garbage time points, a whole lot of volume. There really is not a lot of competition there. You know, Darren Waller's out of town. The Giants didn't have anything ahead of that. And Daniel Jones, he's as crappy as he can be. I mean, the other day had 2 interceptions in preseason.
Yeah.
But he also threw for 150 yards in the first half. So, like, you're going to see some of that YOLO ball. And he's also, like, he knows he's playing for his careers. And so, you know, and if Drew Lock goes out there, he's not ever seen a triple coverage he didn't like. And so Malik Nabers is going to get the ball. So, and I love Malik Nabers. Like, he's also, like, Daniel Jones has never had a guy this good too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make too many excuses for this guy, but, like, he's not had, you know, Odell Beckham Jr., like Eli Manning did. Like, his number one receiver for his entire career has been Darius Slayton.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because that's one of the the things that we consistently bring up on Leather Brains, and Scotty has mentioned he is a Daniel Jones truther and a supporter, and I think that's partially because he owns him on Dynasty. But I think the other argument, and a valid one, is who has his weapons been since he has been a quarterback for the Giants? Like, you look at it, and like you mentioned, Darius Slayton has been his wide receiver one. Sterling Shepard has kind of been around, but hasn't played football because he's always struggled with injury. And then, of course, you have Saquon Barkley, who is a running back, who has also been his primary target, and now he's not in the picture anymore. So it really begs the question, have we seen the best of Daniel Jones, or has he just struggled because he hasn't had any talent around him to help him succeed? And I think that that's somewhat of a fair argument. And so I guess all's to say, and my question to you is this the last straw for Daniel Jones? And do you think there's any world in which he does get re-signed to the Giants, or do you think it's pretty much already washed and he's over?
I mean, it comes down to durability. I think that's the huge thing, especially if you watch the Giants Hard Knocks. That was their big thing. The Giants tried to trade up, get Drake Maye with a first round pick this year and next year. So they were gonna, Malik Nabers plus a first. They really did try to replace him, and that's because he's missed a lot of time. A lot of those weapons you mentioned have also missed a lot of time. But he's got a neck injury that's nagging. That any hit, anything to the sideline could be out. And then you have coming off an ACL injury, how well he's did off that, and he's had spike weeks. I mean, his first game ever, he was the QB1 overall. I'm like, holy crap! Like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, it was like, yeah, he's not that good. And then all of a sudden, he's a really good week. And so he had 5 quarterback one performances his rookie year, with really no options. I'm like, okay, like Evan Ingram and Darius Slayton, that was his squad. I'm like, okay, like we can handle this. Like even Saquon was out that year. I'm like, all right, this is all right. And the next year was nothing. I mean, he's never thrown over, I think, 17 touchdowns. Like his touchdown numbers are really low. And so you're going to need someone you're going to need him. He's not going to rush as much coming off the ACL. And you're going to need him to get over that 25, 26 touchdowns to be fantasy relevant. So I'm staying away from him. Your super flex leagues, he might be like a streaming option or whatever for your QB2. But like Malik Nabers, I'm fine with. I'm really not touching anybody else in the Giants. We can talk a little bit Devin Singletary. You can talk me into that. But that's it.
And that was going to be my other thing is someone's got to replace the shoes of Saquon Barkley, right? And obviously those Devin Singletary and Saquon Barkley are two very different players. But is the run game something you might be interested in acquiring because who else is going to touch the ball for him?
I like Singletary. I mean, he's been a solid back. Like, is he going to win you the league? No, but you can plug and play him. He's gonna get the volume. I know Eric Gray is there. I know Tyrone Tracy's there. But again, they've not proven anything. Devin Singletary's had about 1,000 all-purpose yards 4 years in a row. He's missed one game in 4 years, and he's not like this is really the first time in a while that he's been the clear-cut starter. Doesn't have Josh Allen there, taking away all the touchdowns. And he's familiar with this offense. Brian Dable likes him. And the Giants said, instead of paying Saquon $12, $13 million a year, we're going to get John Runyon, Luminor, and Devin Singletary, and then trade for Brian Burns. And I know Giants fans and, myself, I hated it, especially going to the Eagles. Mm-hmm. But it's a smart move. And I like the additions to the offensive line because talking about all of this, that offensive line was on display that first game last year. And I almost threw up. It was just such a awful display of offensive line play. And, Andrew Thomas is healthy. They've, added pieces to that offensive line. I think that will help all of the pieces here.
I know you said don't draft Daniel Jones, but then you're talking about, look at these weapons, look at this offensive line. I think I might be buying in. I do want to know, part of this is because we just had our fantasy draft in Hunter and I's league, and I did end up picking up Singletary because all of the running backs for some reason went way earlier than any rational person would expect. And I'm interested to know, with some other names in that room, how many touches can we expect from someone like Devin Singletary behind this better offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see over 200 touches. I actually have Mike Clay's projections up, so I want to see what Mike has. But I'm going to say about 200, maybe a little bit more. I do think that you could see those other guys that I mentioned, somewhat of a committee. but he's going to get the work. I mean, he took Dameon Pierce's job last year and ran away with it. He was not expected to be the starter. Mike has him projected for 185 carries and 35 receptions. That's 46 targets. And that's only in 14 games. So if he plays more than that, they'll have more than this. And this is about 215 touches. And he's got him for right around 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's got him finishing as the PPR RB33. And he's currently being drafted, I believe, as the RB29. So it's a pretty good value. Like I like where you can get him in the 8th round, 7th round. I like him a lot better than the receivers in that range. And then, 2 rounds ahead of that, I really like the receivers. And so I like being able to wait and get him.
Yeah, he's also a great pass blocker. So I think he's going to be on the field a lot for those passing downs. So I like that upside too.
Absolutely.
I want to pivot away and talk about another man with a nice beard that has come in to fruition this offseason, Matt Eberflus. I think it really has done a lot to change my perception of him. I thought he was a scumbag. I thought he was a terrible coach. I still am a little on the fence, but the beard has bought him some valuable time for me. But really, what I want to talk about is Caleb Williams here and this offense and what this Bears offense is potentially going to look like. I want to pick your brain on that. Caleb Williams, obviously the 101 and the starting quarterback for the Bears with a revamped entire team, really. So what do you think? Is Caleb Williams going to be the real deal?
I think so, man. And people love to hate on this kid. Like if you putting out content and you want to put out anything, just put on a positive Caleb Williams anything, and you're gonna get a ton of clicks because people love to hate on him. The other day I put something that was not fishing for clicks. I just put like, "Wow, what a throw!" and I was like, "Oh my god, people hate this guy."
It's the fingernail polish, man. Can't get
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I see you in your judgmental profile pic. But as far as the fingernail polish or whatever it is, people love to hate on this guy. I mean, we talked earlier about me being at the combine. I was there when, and Dustin's a friend of mine, but Dustin gave him a hardball to start off his press conference. And it was tough. And, Caleb Williams, he didn't measure, didn't do anything at the combine, like basically just showed up and was like, and he was asked, are you afraid to compete? Like, why are you not doing this? But before he got to the stand, he went to talk and then he sneezed and then he came back up and then he got hit with a hard question and, he handled it well, but yeah, people just love to hate on this guy. I think he's going to be good.
He's got more purses than any man I've ever known. I'll tell you that.
I didn't know he had a singular purse.
So watch Hard Knocks, bro. He's always carrying purses, bro. Everywhere he goes. He's Gen Z. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Don't out me like that. You keep my bedazzled pink ones behind closed doors, Dave. I haven't got the chance to watch it yet. But honestly, maybe he's onto something. Like, I carry a backpack around with me, and I think that sometimes there's just too much space. So maybe I do need to start carrying around a purse. If it's going to make me an NFL quarterback as well, I don't see why I have any issue with it. I have a question about this, though, because I do share the same sentiment that you do, Dave. I do think Caleb Williams is the real deal. And he's a rookie, right? And we've seen preseason games that he's played in, and obviously he's made some mistakes, but then we also see some of the highlights that he makes and some of these plays that he is making, and I'm like, look, man, this is a guy who just entered the NFL. He has no experience in the big leagues yet. And you just watch it from an eye test perspective, and I know that there's no analytical information on the eye test, but you watch him do some of these things, and I'm like, he's going to be really good. And it almost made me do a 180 because I was in the camp originally that I don't think Justin Fields was the issue. And then I saw Justin Fields miss that guy wide open for the Steelers in preseason where the guy did a trampoline catch, and it should have been a touchdown. And I'm just like, no, they definitely made the right call. Like Caleb Williams, it should be the quarterback. So I agree with that. But, Keenan Allen's here now. They drafted Rome Odunze with the 9th overall pick. And so is there any ground to even stand on for Bears fans or Justin Fields truthers that he didn't get a fair shake of it, do you think?
You can say that, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, no one gets the situation that Caleb Williams gets. But so many guys get the same situation Justin Fields gets, and then, they either figure it out or they don't. The fact that he is, the fact there was no trade market for him tells you everything you need to know. If this guy was a good quarterback, like if Trey Lance was a good quarterback, people would have been frothing at the mouth to get him. But, like Justin Fields, what did he go for, like a 6th round pick?
Yeah, I think so. Or 6, I think.
It was bad. And so I know the contract is not great, but like teams are thirsty for a quarterback. 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks of the NFL draft, and Justin Fields was not even close to as good as any of them. And the Steelers, we'll see if they do anything, but yeah, he can't. Everything they've said, he can't anticipate the throw. He can't read a defense. Everything that they've said about him, going back to why he didn't get picked in the top 3. Remember, that was a QB loaded draft class too, and he went at 10.
Well, you mentioned Trey Lance. I think it's time we probably talk about that. I was a Trey Lance truther, and you have poked me many a times to give me my due shit that I deserve. We saw him in preseason for the Cowboys now, of course, because he was traded to them for a 5th round pick, I think it was, and he's now their backup quarterback. He didn't look terrible. He didn't look incredible, but he didn't look bad. And I bring up Trey Lance, A, because I want to give you a door so you can say you were right and I was wrong, because that is the case. But also, I've seen some chatter. I've seen some murmur. I don't think it holds ground necessarily, but I've seen some people over on the Twitterverse saying that the Vikings should go trade for Trey Lance because what do they have to lose? And I want to pick your thoughts on that.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, at the end of the day, like financially, you're not having to pay much. The problem is you got to make it worth the Cowboy, because like the Cowboys aren't going to give him away for, they paid a 5th round pick. They got a good backup for a 5th round pick. And so they trade him for a 4th round pick. Is that doing anything for them? And if they do that, it probably tells you what you need to know about Trey Lance. But if they think he's worth something, like it's going to be a 2nd round pick, it's going to be something valuable. And that's where it makes it really hard, because you just invested in JJ McCarthy. You're paying a 2nd round pick, and then you're going to have JJ McCarthy. So if the price is right, they should do it. I've seen the jokes where Tom Brady's gonna come out of retirement and sell his stock in the Raiders. But I don't hate Trey Lance, and hey, you got it right last year about Michael Pittman.
I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I don't even remember exactly what I was saying about Michael Pittman.
Well,
I've been a fan.
It's that show was a good, it's always, you never know what your league mates are thinking about a player, and just because you like or dislike a player, someone might like him. And so last year, I would have traded you Trey Lance, and you would have been happy, and I would have got Brock Purdy, and I would have been happy. But Michael Pittman, we talked about, like, you thought Michael Pittman as a buy candidate or something, and I was like, who's buying Michael Pittman right now? Because
I do remember that. Now that you mentioned that,
I went on Twitter and I'm like, people are buying Michael Pittman. All right, and so you never know what the market is like. I do a lot of like crowdsourcing and a lot of questions for that reason, because people, you just don't know. Like last year, like it's about Trey Lance. Like last year, people were paying like 1st round dynasty picks for him, and like I put out Brock Purdy. Is he worth like a early 2nd? They're like, yeah, right. Like late 2nd maybe. Even
now, and you bring up Brock Purdy, so I think that warrants the conversation. Is he still undervalued for what he is? And that everybody's making the argument, systematic quarterback. He's got all this talent around him. He's got all these weapons around him, which is true, and I'm not going to take that away. But at the end of the day, he's winning games, and I think he finished his quarterback 9 or 11. I have to go look at the stats again. But like he was a upper echelon quarterback for fantasy purposes, and he's not being drafted until very late in drafts this year. Is that?
Yeah, he's a great value, and I know he's not like a rushing quarterback, but like even to talk about like Caleb Williams, like just the scrambling and extending the plays, that's who you want from your new. Like you don't have to have a quarterback that runs like Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. As long they can extend plays. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, the reason he's so good, he extends plays and has the arm strength to throw the ball from 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage on a rope, 30 yards down the field. But Brock Purdy's got a strong enough arm. He's athletic enough, and he's in a perfect system. He is a regression candidate. Usually, average NFL quarterbacks is about 5% touchdown rate. His was like 9. Like it was really high. Jordan Love was also really high last year. So both those guys might come back to earth a little bit on the passing touchdowns. You know, guys like Aaron Rodgers, who are like number 1 of all time, they're like 7%. So like 7% is really good. And so they might come down a little bit to that. But like Brock Purdy, just again, situation is so important. And that's why I do think Caleb Williams is going to succeed. He's in a great situation.
Well, I want to pivot a little bit over to the Broncos here because I've got a running back that I'm interested in, and his name is Javontae Williams. I think he's going RB30-ish is kind of the general idea, and second year coming off this ACL, we've seen in the past that running backs after a year or after a couple of years removed, they tend to bounce back a little bit. Is he a good fantasy value? Are you actually actively pursuing someone like Javontae Williams in this offense that we have no idea what it's going to look like?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier there's a sleeper article that came out on Fantasy Pros, and they asked for experts to give, and Javontae's a very popular name. And, I know there's a lot of people that also put Jaleel McLaughlin in there. We know that, Sean Payton in the past has had, kind of a two-headed backfield. But Javontae is 2 years, off of the ACL injury. It was, it was a pretty tough injury for him to come off of. All the stuff in camp is how great he looks. And not only does he look great in the running game, he looks great in the passing game. Caught a long, touchdown down the sideline the other day. He's looking slimmer, sharp. And when you saw the snap counts come out from the preseason, I mean, it's pretty clear he's going to be the starter. So I like where he's at. And, his value is the risk is baked in. Like if everyone knew he was going to get 70% of the backfield, they'd be drafting him as a top 20 running back. They're afraid it's going to be 50-50 or worse. And so they're drafting him and Jaleel McLaughlin like very close. And, if McLaughlin is a thing, you're probably like appropriately paying the price. But if McLaughlin is not a thing, then you're getting a tremendous value. Like I think he could finish as an RB15, and you're paying RB30.
Is there any concern that, and obviously a lot of this goes into how much he's going to be on the field and how involved he's going to be, coinciding with potentially Jaleel McLaughlin cutting into that share. I don't think anybody's expecting the Broncos offense to be electric this year. So is there any concerns about falling behind and abandoning the run game? And while he could be involved in the passing game, obviously Bo Nix is presumably going to be looking for your Cortland Suttons and your Marvin Mims and your I can't remember the other gentleman's name. Tim Patrick, thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened last year. And so the Broncos were giving up 70 burgers. They were not good, but at the end of the day, I do think Javontae Williams is a good running back, and he can be involved in the passing game. Like I think that's the part of this where he's not just a thumper, and all of a sudden he's gone. If they get into a 2-minute offense, he can get on the field. He can pass protect. I mean, he used to be a linebacker. He got recruited to NC as a linebacker. Like this guy he can hit, and he's not afraid to. Like I said, I think you see it. A lot of these guys, like everybody's juiced up about Jonathan Brooks, and I am as well. But like, pump the brakes. Jonathan Brooks going in the 5th round, like they've already said he's not even gonna like hit the field till like week 5.
4. Yeah, week 4, week 5.
And so like people are like, yeah, but Todd Gurley, and I'm like, I mean, I hope it happens, but like 5th round, you're really, really hoping it happens.
Yeah.
And so like I think Javontae is a guy, again, like you're getting him in that Singletary range. I think like great, like 0 RB targets that could like be like those kind of like cheap bell cows because they're not on great offenses. Devin Singletary, you have Brian Robinson Jr., and then you have Javontae Williams. They're right there in that range where it's like, I mean, it's like 8th, 9th round.
Yeah.
And you could probably start them every week.
Scotty, you were we had our League of Record draft yesterday, and you were in a little bit of a dilemma. Why don't you present to Dave your dilemma and see what his thoughts are?
Yeah, I mean, our listeners know I'm kind of a moron, and so when I'm faced with tough decisions, I like to approach experts, which you are the expert here, Dave. We are in a keeper league. It's a 10-man league. I have the 108, And I was lucky enough. I won the league last year because I ended up with CMC and CeeDee Lamb on my team. So they carried my entire team. But because I'm in a keeper league, I want to keep one of those guys. All my guys further down the draft weren't that enticing. Which one do you keep? CMC with the already kind of an injury concern, obviously injury concern in the past. He's got a huge workload. Can he hold up? Or CeeDee Lamb, who we don't know if he's even going to play at this point.
Yeah. I think CeeDee Lamb plays, but I always get worried about these guys that like wait, and then all of a sudden they go in, then they get like a hamstring injury or something.
Yeah. Don't put that juju on me.
Yeah. Can you keep them next year?
No. I don't think so.
Because that would have easily made it CD. Like if you could keep this player next year and the year after, like I love CMC, but I mean it'd be 29, 30 at that point.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Hunter would have to answer that question. I don't think I don't know.
The answer is
not
no.
That it matters to the listener. They don't give a shit what our league.
Hunter said everyone else can, but you cannot.
Yeah, no, I could if I was in your situation, but because I'm the commissioner, the answer is absolutely not. No, you can't. Yeah. So, like, I mean, are you taking CMC at the 8th overall pick, or are you taking CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, I mean, you're splitting hairs. I'm going to take CMC, and then if you think by chance that you could maybe trade one of those guys for somebody else, like they both have some risk right now. I know CD kind of seems like the safer pick, but this whole contract situation, just don't like when guys are missing time, and then all of a sudden, But like you could also maybe you get maybe you get CMC and the guy really wants him, and you could trade and get CeeDee Lamb plus. I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Scotty, I'm not trading with you. I will do not want CeeDee Lamb. Dave, we got just a couple more minutes here. I want to open the floodgates. I want to get your dirty old secrets. Who is give me 1 to 2 people this year for fantasy that everybody. And I say everybody, the Twitterverse, the fantasy analysts, the geniuses out there. Can you give me some players that you're interested in that nobody else is? And could you provide your reasoning as to why?
That nobody else is tough.
I would say that people aren't as high on particularly as you might be.
So a guy that people aren't particularly high on that I don't hear a whole lot of love for is Darnell Mooney. I recently did hear some love for him, which was nice, but I think he's a good player. I think he was in a crappy situation in Chicago. I was listening to fantasy footballers talk about him, and they were like, we're watching the film and we're like, all right, he's open. No target, no catch, no fantasy point. He's open again. He's open again. It's like, Jesus. Okay. This guy didn't have any fantasy points because they couldn't get him the ball. And so he goes with Kirk Cousins, who we know is going to throw the ball. And I know everyone's juiced up about Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. Mooney's like very cheaply drafted.
Yeah, I just picked him up off waivers right now, right this very moment, because he wasn't drafted.
Yeah, like Mooney's a guy that I think people should be interested in.
Is there? While we're talking about Darnell Mooney, I mean, is there any concern there as far as there's a couple things in play? Of course, you have Kirk Cousins coming back from injury, so is he going to be healthy? Is he going to look good? But I think the overarching and what I'm more concerned with is there's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. So obviously he's not being drafted very highly, so the risk is already kind of built in. But does he actually get any looks? Because you have Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Like there's a lot of people in this offense that are supposed to be very good.
Yeah. Oh, and you're going to see that. And so, they paid him a ton of money. That's money talks. And so like when I look at like, if you would have had me on the show 3 months ago, I would have told you Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback.
That's what we said 4 months ago. So I'm glad we're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
The money talks, and Darnell Mooney got like a $40 million contract.
Yeah.
Like they paid him money. This wasn't a 1 year prove it deal. Like they gave him significant money, and they're coming from the Sean McVay. You've seen it where they run a ton of 3 receiver sets, do a lot of motion, a lot of stuff. You see it on the Bengals because you see it all around the league that somebody is connected to the McVay tree, and like these or Shanahan, one of them. And like these second receivers are doing damage. And so Mooney's a guy, he's a clear number 2 receiver. And now we just saw Rondale Moore is out for the season. And so like Mooney is the clear number 2. I know Kyle Pitts is there and Kyle Pitts should be a thing. So Mooney is not going to be a top 20 receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised if, he was a wide receiver 3 and you're literally picking him up off the waivers.
All right.
So you are buying Kyle Pitts this year.
Yeah. Last question about Kyle Pitts. Where does he finish? Tight end 1? Clearly, easily.
I'm going to go with tight end 3.
All right, that's still pretty good. I'll take that.
All right, give me what's your top 5 tight ends?
Top 5 tight ends. I have Kelsey as the number 1 tight end. And then I got Mark Andrews. And then I got Sam Laporta. And then I have Trey McBride. And then I have Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
That sounds more like tight end 5 to me, Dave. I don't like that as much.
Yeah, it's him and Kincaid are close. I looked at like key performance indicators for the top 12 tight ends last year, and you have to be number 1 or 2 on your team in targets. You prefer that your tight end is the number 1 on your team in targets, and then it comes down to air yards. Are you going to be a guy that gets, dink and dunks 3 yards down the field, or you're getting, 15, 16 yards per target? And Kyle Pitts had the most by far, and he only played like half the season. He had 1,000 air yards last year. And so that does bring me another sleeper. I think Pat Freiermuth's a little bit of a sleeper. Arthur Smith. They got no one behind George Pickens. And you could easily see Pat Freiermuth be the number 2 target on that team.
Yeah, you would have said the same thing for Kyle Pitts, except you also saw Arthur Smith be an idiot and use Jonnu Smith. So I have no faith in Arthur Smith. If I had to choose between taking him off the planet or Sean Payton off the planet, it would be a very difficult decision for me because I think they're both scumbags. Dave, I appreciate you coming on, man. It has been an absolute blast. We are out of time. Can you please tell all the Brainiacs out there, once again, where they can find you and what you got going on so they are well equipped to go follow you?
Yeah, check me out at Dynasty Dorks. DMs are open if you have any fantasy football questions. And go check out the Dynasty Trade Calculator TikTok. We've been putting out some pretty fun content. It's been, I think, pretty funny. I think you'll get some laughs as well as some trade stuff as well.
Go check him out. Dave Heilman. We appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to do it again here soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
Really do appreciate Dave Heilman joining us over here at Leatherbrains. Once again, go follow him over at Dynasty Dorks. Dave, I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Recurring guest and friend of the show. Another thing I want to talk about before we get the heck out of here. I don't know if did you guys see the headlines for this over the weekend? There was on Friday. There was 11 to 12 Chargers players that got stuck in a hotel elevator for roughly 2 hours in Dallas this last Friday. Jim Harbaugh was asked about it, and he quoted, "We dodged a bullet, and it was a shared experience. It brought them closer together. I just missed out on being in the elevator. I wish I could have been there with those guys."
What a fucking weirdo, dude.
First question.
You do not want to be there.
First question. Who were these 11 to 12 NFL players? How big was this elevator? Because if it has like a decent amount of D linemen in it, I'm very concerned at like did they cause it? Because that's a lot of NFL
Justin Herbert
weight.
was there. Can confirm Justin Herbert was a part of that. It is a lot of weight. I've been in this situation. Scotty has been in this situation. This is not a situation anybody wants to be in at all.
2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours.
You were stuck in an elevator for 2 hours.
I got PTSD when I read this story.
I've been
experience.
there. I've done that. It is the sweatiest, most disgusting time of your life because we didn't have 11 to 12 players in there. And granted, these are big, giant human beings because they're NFL players, but we had close to 20 individuals shoved into this elevator, and it got stuck in between floors for 2 hours. We had people like there was mirrors in the elevator, completely fogged over.
Fogged up.
Completely fogged over. It was so hot in there. Yeah, it was gross. They had the doors like cracked half open, and we were just chilling in there. And we were in high school at the time. There were jokes made about, there was a movie that had come out where like everybody got trapped in that elevator and went to hell. And so I cracked a joke pretty early on, and then I got yelled at by all of like the college women that were shoved in there as well. They're like, "Do not make jokes in here. This is not funny." And me and my buddy are drawing tombstones on all the sweated over windows.
Who cracked the doors? Did like
The elevator people?
They did. Were they
Yeah.
sliding you guys snacks and stuff?
No, but they did slide us a pool pass because
Which,
nice.
By the way, that's kind of weird to me. I was thinking about that because at the time it was like, okay, the elevator is broken because of us. We fit like way too many people into this elevator for sure. It's our fault. But then they gave us a pool pass. And at the time I was like, that's pretty cool of them. Now I'm like, why? What kind of hotel doesn't have a free pool? Like, why are they charging people?
Well, they
to
had
use
supposedly. Well, I mean, we went to the pool. We didn't go. We were there for a conference for school, and then we just said we're not going to the conference. Like the closing ceremony, we went to the pool instead. And the pool was like probably 2 tiers under like a Cocoa Keys. Like it was like not the best water park, but they had like a little bit. I think they probably just closed it because there was a bunch of high schoolers there, so they weren't going to let it. It wasn't going to be free pool rain, but they gave us the pass. And the reason I think they did that is because they didn't have any like signs in the elevator showing like the certificate of like conformance or anything. So all's to say, like, they didn't have a sign that said like certificate in the manager's office, so there was nothing there. So from a legal standpoint, I don't know. I was a child that wasn't paying attention, but I did notice that. And maybe they just wanted us to shut our mouths and just go enjoy the pool, so we didn't. We
accepted a bribe, is what you're saying.
Well,
That's kind of a pool pass.
Let's not tell these idiots the pool is actually free and see if we can get away with it. And you guys are like, oh, sick.
Well, we did ask.
I do want to
go to the pool.
I do want to give a quick shout out to one of the high school girls that was in that elevator with us, because a lot of the high school girls were very uncomfortable, and we were.
Were you also in high school?
We were also in high school.
Okay,
yeah, we're all the same age.
This is an important point to make when you're talking about all of this.
I'm not gonna say anything weird, right? You're making it weird. There's one girl there who all the other girls were freaking out, and this girl was from Minnesota. She had a hardcore Minnesota accent, and she just kept saying, I want to get out of here and watch the Gopher game. I just got to go watch the Gopher game.
Gophers. Oh my god, dude, you're legit.
The only thing I'll say is that if the Chargers come out and they are just on fire, just crushing teams, they got good vibes going, I think the NFL being a copycat league, we're going to see more teams lock 11 to 12 players in an elevator in the preseason to try to squeeze out some camaraderie. So, I mean, shout out to Harbaugh. He might be doing it again, this time unintentionally, but we'll see how many more teams get locked in.
Like, everybody get the hell in the elevator.
Did you see the last thing on this? You see Harbaugh, he was like, yeah, it was amazing. All the players came out, they were so sweaty, but Justin Herbert, his hair was a little wet, but there was not a drip of sweat on his shirt because he's just a beast.
It's like, no, he's got perspiration issues. Like, it's hot in there.
Weird.
So weird.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't want to be in there. Like, there's no, that's not, you're forced into a small, tiny space with a bunch of grown men for 2 hours. That's not like, it's kind of building camaraderie, but it quickly is get me the hell out of this elevator. So you're not missing anything.
Fair.
Jamar Chase practiced, so congratulations to him. That was something I don't want to really touch. I just wanted to touch on it. I don't necessarily think we need to talk about it, but I point that out because he still hasn't gotten a contract, and I think with CeeDee Lamb getting his contract, Jamar Chase is the big question mark right now. So he did show up to practice, and he hasn't been practicing. So he's got.
Yeah, his is weird. It is weird. I do, however, want to talk about Drake Maye before we get out of here very quickly, because this one's kind of perplexing. Did you guys get the opportunity to watch the Patriots on Sunday for this preseason game? I did watch
what were your
it.
Thoughts
I wanted to see him. I thought he looked way different and better than I had seen in anything before. I was like, who the hell was this guy? And so part of me was like, was this just like a random thing he did, or is this going to be him in the NFL? I have no idea. I was all out on Drake Maye. I was like, this guy might be a trash can. Might be an even before the season abort mission on him as a first rounder. But him in this game, he was making plays. I think he had like a 20-ish yard run, 20 yard run to extend on third down, was making throws all over the field, stepping up in the pocket, dotting people. And I was like, who the hell is this dude? Totally different than anything.
His pocket presence and his footwork both looked night and day from the last time we saw him on TV. Like, I don't know what they told him or what conversations they had, but he looked. Now, even the commentators said something about it during the game. They're like, well, look at his footwork. Like, his footwork was the big question mark, and it's just been incredible. And it was. The question is, no matter what, looking at the rest of this roster,
Kyle Pitts.
do you want to put him out there? Look how bad the offensive line was just in this game, and they had a lot of their starters out there, and this offensive line was bad. And I don't want to put our first round pick out there. I would much rather run with Jacoby Brissett and just make it.
And I'm glad you're bringing this up because it begs the question. Gerard Mayo, head coach for the Patriots, was asked on Monday night, I want to say it was, or excuse me, Sunday night, who the starter would be, and he said Jacoby Brissett, and then Monday morning he said, oh no, it's going to be Drake Maye, like 100%. And so all is to say, like, I don't even think the Patriots know for sure. I do think it would probably be beneficial to the Patriots to have Jacoby come out first, because you can do one of those things where let Jacoby screw it up for himself and then we'll transition into Drake Maye. And I think that should probably be what happens. I'm not holding my breath that the Patriots are going to be anything this year, but at least let your rookie get some playing time and see if you got anything to be able to develop your team around him. So
yep, for sure.
That's my thoughts on it.
For sure.
Well, that's all the time we have. Appreciate all you dirty old nasty brainiacs joining us for this episode. Want to give a huge shout out to Dave Heilman. Appreciate you coming on our show. Recurring guest. I love you, brother. Thank you for coming. Go give him a follow at Dynasty Dorks. And while you're on the follow train, don't forget to follow us on whatever platforms you might not be following us on. YouTube, Spotify, wherever, TikTok, Instagram, we're everywhere, Leatherbrains, and check out leatherbrains.com. We have daily articles over there, great content. I love what our writers are doing, and there is every day there's new articles coming out that pertain to both fantasy football and or NFL content. Check it out, leatherbrains.com. Love you guys. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.